to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
Well, hi there. It's Mathew Blade's Anticipatory Grief. What is that? So today we're about to sit down with Jill McMahon, as we do every single Thursday for Guns and Grief. And I just want to thank everybody out of the gate for the support of last week's episode. Both Jill and I were a little bit nervous as to how that episode on suicide would go, but you have fully embraced it. And not just embraced it, you've shared it with friends. You've gone back in, and I think, and Jill, let me bring you in because I'd love your take on this. Good morning, by the way.
Hi, good morning.
I think because it was more of a factual discussion about it. The new data had come out, and we were just telling people what the score was. And I think that's what's resonated. It wasn't like, here's my opinion, here's what I think, here's what we need to do. It was just like, here's what's happening. And now you have the information yourself. Would you agree with that? Or do you think there was something else happening there?
Oh, 100%, my friend. I think these are the facts and none of us can deny it. And what I think you and I are learning is that there are many people out there that have been impacted by a suicide loss, and they're hungry to be understood and to be given a voice. And they're hungry for the information. And so for you and I to be able to begin the conversation, I think people are resonating with that.
Great. Today, we're going to move on to something called anticipatory grief. And I want to start with a quick story, if you allow me to. Last Friday, past Friday, I received really good news in my life. I had been I had put my proposal out there for a job that I've been really, really hoping to get. The speaking engagement that I've been really hoping to get. And Friday at around 11 o'clock, I got the email, and the email said, "We would like to move along with your proposal." And I was over the moon. I mean, more excited than I've been in a long time. And I'm so grateful for that moment. 3 hours later, I get a phone call from one of my aunts that my uncle is being placed in hospice. And it's amazing to me how life has a sense of humor that way. And it says, "Oh yeah, you want to feel really good? Let me give you some of this." And so it gave me the yin and the yang. And as I've been reflecting over the last few days about my uncle who's in hospice, there's something that comes to mind, and that is we're getting to that stage in life where, you and me, our age group, the generation ahead of us, they're starting to get a lot older. And in a lot of ways, I don't think I'm unique. We're watching our idols. We're watching the icons in our family. We're watching the people that we grew up with the most reverence. And these folks now have bodies that are becoming weak and frail and probably on their way out. And so, as usual, your topic is perfectly timed. What made you want to talk about anticipatory grief?
I don't know if it's just a season out there, buddy, or what it is, but it is all around me right now. And so
really,
yeah, when I pick these topics week to week, and for anybody who's listening, Mathew doesn't suggest anything that we discuss. He leaves it up to us. And so, I try to be really thoughtful, and I try to bring up things that aren't oftentimes discussed, but I couldn't look the other way from this one. And I think partially because you just nailed it. You and I are in that unique sandwich generation where we still have children that aren't completely independent of us. And we have aging family members that are beginning to become ill and pass away and need us as well. And I will tell you, I'm so sorry about the phone call that you received on Friday, but I received 2 of those phone calls last week of dear friends of mine that had either lost a parent that was in hospice, for less than 2 days, or another friend whose dad has been ill for months and months and months. And it's just been a slow burn, so much so that I woke up this morning to another text from a friend who said, that an uncle was fine last week and all of a sudden isn't fine. And it's just anticipatory grief isn't really discussed very often, right? You and I have been talking for quite a while now about sudden loss and trauma, but we're not talking about the slow burn of anticipatory grief because it is different.
It is different because with my situation, according to his wife, it's like, it could be a week, it could be a month. And it's just, you don't really know when it's going to go down. But I've suffered enough loss in my life, and I know you have, that the clock is ticking, and there is a sense of urgency for me to go and visit, to go and spend time with, to go and make sure that I say all the things and I do all the things while I still have an opportunity to do so. And so I'm glad we're doing this. So why don't we just jump in? Because according to you, there's 4 stages to anticipatory grief. And so let's jump in, because I'll be curious where the audience is sitting in this story. Step 1 is what?
Step 1 is going to be acceptance. So, I think it's important for us to define anticipatory grief, my friend, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
Conventional grief, that's traditional grief that you and I have talked about over and over again, that happens after a loss, Matthew. That's a reaction to a loss. Whereas
Okay.
anticipatory grief is considering what is going to come. It's what you just stated a few minutes ago. Like, I feel this need to go and visit. I feel this need to chat and be prepared for a loss that I think may be coming in the future. I consider it kind of front loading. So in my own experience, I'm going to tell a short story. I'm a therapist who has a therapist. And Matthew, you probably know this, but I always love to tell the world that I think every good therapist should have their own therapist, right? We have a bunch of stuff that we hold, and it's great practice. We have to practice what we preach. But I remember several years ago, I've lost both of my parents in the matter of 6 years. And I remember several years ago, my mom's health had been declining for a year or two. And it was probably a few months before she passed away. And I remember walking into my therapist's office and I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm not crying. Like, she is declining so quickly. I'm just so worried about care. I'm stressed all the time, but I'm not crying. And she said to me, Jill, it's because you've been grieving her for years now. You've been grieving her health slipping away. You've been grieving her mental faculty slipping away. You've been grieving the relationship that you had with her 10 years ago is not the relationship that you have with her now. That's anticipatory grief. I share that story to make it more human for people that are living in it, because there are so many of us that experience anticipatory grief, but we don't realize it. And I consider that grief, my friend, front loading. Right? So there's the intense grief that occurs immediately after a sudden loss happens. A heart attack, you know that also well. A car accident, pneumonia that quickly turns into a death, right? Drowning. There's that sudden shock and grief. And then there's anticipatory grief, which is, you're not the person that I remember so well in my memories, right? I'm sad that we can't have deep conversations anymore. I'm the one who's transferring you from bed to couch. I'm now taking care of you. So it's front loading grief in some way, anticipating that more and more of this person is going to disappear in time. So I want to go back to your question. You were asking about the stages of anticipatory grief. The first one is going to be acceptance. So it's just recognizing that the end is avoidable. It's not avoidable, excuse me. It's recognizing that the end is unavoidable. And with that, there's going to be a little bit of denial. Like, is this really happening? Sure, they're going to bounce out of it. They could come back. There could be a miraculous cure. Or, what if it's somebody who has a lifelong injury, right? Now needs to walk with a walker or use a wheelchair, that denial of like, well, I'll be able to walk again. With that comes the realization that acceptance is going to come sadness and depression, anger, that this is where they are in their lives, or where you are in their lives. Second phase is going to be reflection, right? Coming to terms with your reality, which is a little bit where I hear you are now in that story that you shared about Friday, like coming to terms with reality. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, right. Well, I think I'm fully in it. I'm fully in reflection now, where I'm, just thinking about the relationship, and it wasn't like me and this uncle spent 1,000 hours together or anything like that. We always lived in different states, but he has lived here in Arizona for a while. And so I did get an opportunity to spend a little bit more time with him. He's one of those uncles that at every family reunion, you kind of gravitated towards to spend a little bit of time with. So yeah, I do find myself reflecting and about the reality. And I saw your notes and you said, you suggested maybe there's feelings of regret, guilt, or remorse. And so I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit on your content, but I don't necessarily feel those things, but reflexive does feel accurate.
Okay, so I love that you jumped ahead on the notes. Thank you. Because that is not your experience now. But I bet if we were to go back and look at previous losses that you've had, my friend, that would not be all that foreign to you to be considering a loss, regardless of what it is, and have some regrets, even resentments, but regrets of, I wish I would have done something differently. I wish I would have had that conversation. I wish I would have taken my parent on that last trip to their hometown that they were never able to get back to, but they said they were going to, and now their health is failing, so they can't go back to, they want to go to their own parents' grave sites. And why didn't I do that? Those are the emotions that I am talking about that are not all that foreign when we're talking about anticipatory grief. Then comes
it all came flooding back. Now it all came flooding back for me. Right.
I mean,
the things that I wish I would have done with dad or mom or my best friend. It's like now you're smacking me across the face.
Now I'm hitting it. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we'll see rehearsal as well. So we start with acceptance. We go straight into reflection. I wish I wouldn't have said that horrible thing to them during that fight that we had when we were 45. I know that we've mended now, but I regret that I even caused them that discomfort. And then we go into rehearsal. And rehearsal is actually, we've talked a lot about the brain on this program and how it prepares you for loss. It's your brain's way of preparing you for a death. So you start maybe thinking about how you will act immediately after the loss. Are you going to respond to the family? Are you going to show up at home? How can you best help them? What is your part that you can play in the service or however they choose to memorialize their person? How can you best be of help? So now you see, you went from acceptance of, damn it, is this really happening? Like, I'm so pissed off this is happening, but I have to acknowledge that it's happening, into like, oh gosh, I wish I would have done some things different. Time is so precious and I didn't realize how precious time was, to how can I help when they pass? Right? And then we go into imagining a future without them. So then your brain begins to visualize, what are my Friday mornings going to be like now? Because Samantha and I called each other every Friday morning at 9 a.m. It was our coffee hour. It's when we caught up with one another about what our week was like. Or I called my aging mom and dad every Sunday to check in and to make sure that they were okay. What is my life going to feel like or be like with this hole, with this void? So those are really the 4 stages of anticipatory grief. Again, not something we think about very often, but I would guess that almost everybody has experienced it at least once, if not twice.
What I want to say right now to the folks who are paying attention to us is, this big push that I have here in 2026 is to, when I'm on stages, is a really simple framework that I call air check your life. And it's based on an old radio philosophy where you take a look at the things that were working, you take a look at the things that you could have done a little bit better, and you take a look at the things that make it really hard for people to be in relationship with you. Mm-hmm. And it feels like to me, and I probably the best way I can articulate this is through a story that I've shared before, which is my mom and I did not always have the greatest relationship with each other. And the last few years of her life, I really worked hard on mending that relationship and making that much better. And I can really say, like, I really, with my whole heart, and I mean this truthfully, like, there are no regrets. It happened the way that it happened. But I worked so hard for the last few years that she was around to make that relationship better, that it made that stage of grief a little easier for me. And I would challenge the people who are listening to Jill and I right now to air check your life. Like, look at the relationships in your life with the people who you are really close to and say, what am I getting right with these people? What are areas where I might be able to improve these relationships? And then what am I doing in relationship with people that's making it hard for them to be around me, or me hard to be around them? Because what I have learned, and I have done this with both my parents, the hard way and the less hard way. It's not the easy way, right? But with dad, there was a lot of what ifs. There was a lot of like regrets. There was a lot of, God, I wish I would have. And with mom, there wasn't as much of that. I can tell you unequivocally that it has been, again, not easier, but less hard to go through that with my mom, knowing that I did the best that I could. And so I'm challenging everybody who's watching us right now to examine the relationships that they have with the people that they are the closest with. And what could you be doing better? How could you bury some hatchet along the way that's making it hard for you guys to have the kind of relationship that you want to? Because, and I'll tell you where this is coming from. When my mom was in the hospital, there were more people who, that's not fair. There were a lot of people that came to see her to apologize or to ask for forgiveness. And it was like, I joked with my sister, I think a couple of times, it's like, man, this is like the sorry tour. I was like, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't want the sorry tour. I want people around me that are like, we did it. We did the best we could with what we had. And so I hope you don't mind that I derailed us there for just a minute, but I wanted to make that challenge to people to just examine what's going on and what can you do a little bit better? What are you doing that's making it hard for people? And then, like, most importantly, what are you getting right? And then, as my old radio consultant used to say, just do more of that. just do more of the things that you're getting right, and you will find yourself with a much easier life to live. How would you like to wrap up, Jill?
I want to say to you that I don't think that was a derailment at all. And I think this is the perfect place to be dishing out that advice. And I'm going to call that advice, really. I mean, air check your reality now.
Yeah.
There aren't enough of us that have stopped and thought about it. But mostly there aren't a lot of us that are brave enough to do it, right? It's easier to sit in the unknown. It's easier to sit in denial than to have those really important conversations. And you are a living example of, because I had those hard conversations the last 3 or 4 years, and I really worked at it, I didn't experience that guilt or remorse or regret that so many of us do. So I actually love that you just brought that up. I think it's a call to action for everyone that is weird, that we are happy enough to have listened to us for whatever reason they choose to listen to us, right? Anticipatory grief, Mathew, is going to happen to all of us. It probably has happened to many of us. It doesn't have to be death, my friend. It can be a diagnosis that nobody expected that is going to change the way that they live life today. It can be being pushed out of a job because you're too old, or because you're the wrong sex, or because you don't understand AI, right? And feeling like that path ahead that you thought you had fully scripted and was going to take you down the next 30 years is being completely detoured, right? So just call out the steps, recognize them for what they are. Don't damn yourself for them. Don't damn anybody else for them. They are a normal part of life. However, I love what you just said. Honestly, if you can air check some of those conversations, and some of those conversations have to be with yourself.
Big time.
Right? I think then you can circumvent some of the pain.
Love that.
Yeah.
Jill's got an amazing book out. It's called Bulletproof. It's in the bottom right of our screen. You can simply scan that QR code in the top left, and it will take you straight to Amazon where you can pick it up. I want to wish you good luck today, as I know that you have a conversation coming up with an entire country, and talking about moving some of your curriculum into their space. And so without giving away too many details, I'll just say we're wishing you all the best. And we know that these people would be so lucky to have you. So go get it.
Thank you, my friend.
I love it. Thanks to everybody for watching today. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. We're here every single Thursday with Jill for something we call Guns and Grief. For those who wonder why we call it that, she is a gun violence survivor and she is a grief specialist and has been since really the early 1900s. Yeah, right. Really the 1900s. That's just a job. Because my sons and I were talking about that over the weekend about, when they have kids, it's going to be so wild that like grandma and grandpa were born in the 1900s, right?
So true. And they were born at the turn of the century.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. All right, guys. Have a great day. Jill,
Bye,
you too.
guys.
See you next week.
See you next week.